are tools of your body, protecting you by getting rid of bugs and clearing up damaged tissue. The only problem is that some of the tools of your immune system cause collateral damage and can do more harm than good. It is these damaging tools that play a major role in the development of Alzheimer's disease. Our research wanted to test existing, safe drugs to see if we could find one which could diffuse the explosives without affecting the rest of the tools. To do this, we tested lots of drugs on cells growing in a dish and found one currently used drug called mefenamic acid inhibited the kinds of inflammation we think contribute to Alzheimer's disease. Now that we found this drug using cells, we wanted to test it in something more related to the actual disease in people.
To do this, we used mice which have genes similar to those found in rare and heritable forms of Alzheimer's disease. Just like Alzheimer's patients, these mice lose their memory over time. We took 20 mice and we gave half mefenamic acid and half placebo for 28 days. We found that where the placebo mice had very poor memory and inflammation in the brain, the mefenamic acid treated mice had perfectly normal memory and no explosives wreaking havoc in their brains. But how do we test the memory of a mouse? In our study, we utilised the fact that mice like to explore new objects. But to a mouse with poor memory, every object seems new. Imagine going to a car park and seeing a Ford Fiesta parked next to an alien spaceship. You would spend more time exploring the spaceship. But if you didn't remember what a car was, you would be equally amazed by the Ford Fiesta and spend the same time exploring both. So by timing how long a mouse spends exploring the new object compared to the one it's familiar with, we can measure whether the mouse can remember the object it has already seen.
This is promising early stage research, but before we know how effective it is in Alzheimer's patients, much more needs to be done. Research like this relies on fantastic charities like the Alzheimer's Society and Alzheimer's Research UK, so a huge thank you to them. I'm Michael Daniels.
And I'm Jack Rivers-Orty.
And we research in Dr. David Brought's lab at the University of Manchester.
Congenital heart disease, or CHD, is the most common type of birth defect, affecting up to 9 in every 1,000 babies born in the UK. Congenital means present from birth, and the term CHD covers a range of birth defects that affect the normal structure and function of the heart. Efficient heart function is essential for human life, since the heart is responsible for pumping blood to the tissues and organs of the body, to deliver oxygen and nutrients, but also to remove waste products such as carbon dioxide. For this reason, CHD can be extremely serious, and in severe cases, babies often need to undergo multiple heart surgeries to correct the heart defect. Think of the heart as a jigsaw puzzle. Each piece needs to be in the correct place for the puzzle to be complete. However, even after corrective surgery, problems still arise in the adult with time, due to pieces of the jigsaw puzzle becoming worn out so they no longer fit properly. This can cause further issues such as abnormal heart rhythm and also problems with the heart valves. In our lab, we're investigating the causes of CHD to enable better treatment and management of patients with the disease. However, in the majority of cases, the cause of CHD is not identified. This is because CHD is a very complex disease and is likely caused by a combination of both genetic and environmental factors. To find potential causes of CHD, we've sequenced the DNA of patients with known CHD and compared those sequences with a control population that doesn't have the disease. We look for variations in the DNA coding sequence, known as single nucleotide variants or mutations that are unique to patients with CHD or extremely rare in the general population. The potential disease-causing genes identified are investigated to see if their loss causes the heart to develop or function abnormally. If this is the case, we can perform more in-depth investigations to identify the specific function of the gene to see if it's involved in important cell processes such as cell signalling, cell movement, cell division or cell identity. Ultimately, we hope to identify and understand the causes of CHD, so new therapies and improved surgical interventions can be offered to patients to improve their quality of life and prognosis. My name is Dr. Donna Page, and I research congenital heart disease at the University of Manchester.
Cancer happens when cells...
Okay, so it's after 2:15, so I think we'll start. Would you mind shutting the door there? Is that okay? Ooh. Do you want to shut the door? Yeah, thanks. Cheers. So most of you have either come through that door or that door. If there is a fire alarm, those are the two exits, and there's one at the back at the top there as well. So hopefully there won't be any alarms going off today. So it is very hot here, so feel free to get your fan out. I've been given a fan now, so I'm feeling a bit like Beyonce in some kind of... this is my Glastonbury. This is as good as it gets when you're an academic member of staff here. My name is Dr. Ruth Grady. I am a senior lecturer in microbiology and one of the 2 academic admissions officers that we have here in the school. So welcome to Manchester if you've travelled from far away. If this is your hometown as well, hopefully you'll think it looks lovely today. Not raining, almost sunshine. I mean, when I left my house this morning, I did the usual Manchester thing in the summer, suntan cream, sunglasses, an umbrella and a spare jumper just in case, because we do tend to get all seasons here in a day. So in my talk, I'm going to talk first about what are the biological sciences, what do we mean by bioscience, and hopefully get you excited about the subject and think, yeah, I'm listening to this and I would like to be part of that. Because being excited about a subject means that whenever you're doing any extra reading, it's not extra reading, it's you like it, you enjoy it, and then you'll do so much better in your degree programme. I'm going to talk about our entry requirements, and I'm going to talk about our flexibility of our courses, and why you might want to bespoke your degree programme in a particular way, and the different choices you can make. And then I'll end up by talking about what you can do with a degree in biological sciences. So first of all, let's start off with a definition. Biological sciences includes any study that contributes to understanding of life processes. So it's applied chemistry, if you like. You know, this is it in the life sphere. Now, other places will call it life sciences, biomolecular, biomedical, but we encompass all of those just in biological sciences. We actually have 15 different degree titles that you can do biological sciences, and whichever one of these you choose will end up, if you end up graduating in that degree program, that's what it will say on your degree certificates. You know, BSc Hons Biochemistry, and then you may have tagged on another year as well, so maybe with a modern language or whatever it is. And now any of these 15 is just one choice on your UCAS form. So you might be dithering between genetics or immunology. Don't put both of them down, just put one of them down. Because as I'll explain later, it's a common first-year course. Not totally common. I mean, there are some choices that you get to make. And to decide which one you really want to go for, have a look at our undergraduate web pages on the intranet. And then you have a drop-down menu. These are your choices in first year. These are the compulsory units if you're doing this degree program. And then these are the options you'd have if you were doing a different degree program. Hopefully you've had a chance to talk to our students in the Michael Smith building as well, who are on these degree programs. So I'll give you some indication as to why you might go for one degree program over the other. But generally it's about which units are core and which ones are optional ones. So we're looking for around about 650-ish, 650 to 700 students in the whole of the biological sciences. Now this lecture theatre, if it was full, would take 550 students. So another 100 on top of that, that's how many people would be in some of the first year units that you would take. That is, of course, if everybody turns up on a wet November morning at 9 a.m., which, of course, we can't guarantee. So, you have few units in first year. In second year, that's when it becomes more specialised. So that's when it will really zone in on the zoology or the pharmacology or whatever it is you're really interested in. But we want to give you a good grounding in all the biosciences because you will need that good grounding in all of them to specialise. So first of all, let's think about why we want to study biosciences in the first place. People will have come into and be drawn towards biological sciences for various different reasons. It may be that you fancy your biology teacher and that's why you're doing really well in it. Great reason to study biology, maybe not the best reason to carry on with it, but hopefully there's some different reasons why you like it. I mean, it's interesting in its own right. Most people, if you like animals, I'm a cat woman. No, I am, honestly. So I love cats. I've got a 16-year-old cat. He's very old and very slow. And so when I'm lecturing, always shoehorn Carney the cat in my lectures, because why wouldn't you? I haven't put it in the admissions one because the other admissions officer wouldn't let me, because she's into cars. And if I have cats, she'd put a car in, and I'm not having that. So we've decided no personalisation. But yeah, I like cats, I like animals, some people like plants. But what we want people to be really interested in is thinking about big questions in biosciences, big challenges that we need people to be able to solve. Some people are drawn in by thinking about the world that we know about, and thinking about, well, you know, what is on the bottom of the ocean? What are all these marine creatures with these weird goggly eyes and fins that seem to be growing at a depth that you think, how can you be surviving there? And finding out other niches, microenvironments on the Earth as well. That's why people want to study biology, because they want to understand where we are in the world. Some people are very interested in the changing world, you know, global climate change. Can we produce enough food to feed people in the future? And that's why they want to study biosciences. Other people are very interested specifically in human life and human biology. You know, for instance, how we develop. You know, egg cell, sperm cell, they fuse, lots of rounds of cell division, and 9 months later, out pops out a baby with hopefully a head in the right place, arms and limbs, etc. Sometimes it goes wrong. Why does that happen? You know, what are the signaling mechanisms between the cells? And some animals can do things in development that we can't do as humans. If you take a salamander, and if you amputate one of the limbs, I am not recommending you do this at home, okay? Under controlled conditions, you can amputate the limb of a salamander. Within a few days, the stem cells from the salamander will be targeted to that amputation site. They will start to differentiate into limb cells, and a whole new limb will be grown from that cut site. So within a month, that salamander can now walk around with all 4 legs. Absolutely fine. Bit cross, it's had its leg cut off, but it's grown one back. Now, we can't do that. So what are those signaling mechanisms that salamanders can do? And so we have people who are interested in finding things out from animals about development. And when development goes wrong, you know, towards the end of life, neurodegenerative diseases, what's happening there? People want to study the brain to understand what happens when it goes wrong, and can we correct it? Of course, infectious disease is never far away. You know, it's been through with us the whole of society, and we're more than aware of the damage that infectious disease can do in the societies. But other diseases, such as inflammation, when our immune system goes wrong, whether that's because of an infection or it's because our cells are dividing too rapidly and we have cancer and we have an inflammatory response to these broken down cells. So people want to understand inflammation and cancer. And of course, these hopefully will all lead to new diagnostics, so we can diagnose things quicker and earlier, leading to early treatments and better targeted treatments as well. So that idea of precision medicine, where we're giving pharmacological treatments that are not going to have nasty side effects and are going to treat the particular disease that somebody may have. So these are all reasons why you might want to study biology. One thing we want to train our undergraduate students is to be prepared for the unknown. Unknown problems. We don't know what's over the horizon. We don't know what challenges are going to be thrown at us. So we want to develop this kind of growth mindset where you have all this information, you specialize in something, but also you draw on experience of the other subjects that you've studied too. Because we know these challenges are not just biological. They will also involve other sciences, the mathematicians, the engineers. Some of these are engineering problems. Some of these will be political problems. So we need to talk to people who understand politics and global economics. And that idea of you have your specialism, but you need to be prepared to work with other people is what we hope to get out of our undergraduate students during your course here. And lots of these problems are being addressed here in Manchester. And it's well worth a visit to look at our research pages on our website for our school and our faculty. We are a research-intensive university. If you want to see our performance in the recent research excellence assessment, then the data is on our website. We did extremely well. We have a lot of people doing world-class research here. Now, so if you go on our research pages, it is like going down a rabbit hole. There is a lot to read. So I'll just highlight a few things. One of them is cancer research. We have the Cancer Research Centre, which is a partnership between our faculty, our school, so the scientists. It's also the biggest cancer research charity, Cancer Research UK, and then the Christie Hospital NHS Foundation Trust. So that's a hospital in South Manchester. So we have the clinicians, we have the scientists, we have the funding. So a lot of cancer research takes place here in Manchester. That means we have the expertise then to trickle that down into our undergraduate programs. And we have some second year units and final year units that are specifically about looking at cancer. You know, so we want to understand things like the normal cell cycle, how cells divide and how they grow. Then how that, when something with the signaling goes wrong, and we get cancer and tumorous growth, and then how that moves around the body. So we have scientists who are interested in using computational methods to model cancer migration around the body. We have diagnostic people who are looking at imaging techniques, so overlapping with the physics school, thinking about how we can image cancer migration around the body. All very important to understand and ultimately find a cure for all cancers. Now, I'll put biotechnology here as well. This is one of our research beacons for the university. You know, we're at the forefront of a bio-industrial revolution. I mean, Manchester was here for the first industrial revolution with all our cotton trade and making cloth, etc. But we're leaving the spinning jennies behind and all that kind of thing you do in history. The bio-industrial revolution. We can't rely on fossil fuels in the future, but can we bioengineer yeasts or algae to create more and more lipid and fat storage? And if we can do that in massive big vats, can we use that as an energy source in the future? We have people in our faculty looking at maximizing food production, looking at plant growth. So we want to grow plants that are taller and bigger with bigger leaves. So we're using less land, but we're maximizing the use of that land. And this fits in then with our Manchester Environmental Research Institute. So again, addressing environmental challenges to the planet. Here, recent studies here in Manchester, if you saw the shark video that was playing when some of you were walking in. We have researchers here looking at migratory fish and their reproductive success. Because we know fish go to parts of the ocean, and if the ocean temperatures are rising, are they still going to be able to spawn and be part of the food chain? So we have researchers who go out on field trips, get the material, bring them back into the lab and looking things at the changing hearts and lung capacity. So doing bench science from things they've taken from the seas. So we have lots of research groups here looking at development and trying to understand how our body parts work together. The Centre for Biological Timing, this is the largest research community in Europe for biological timing. And if you look at their website, their tagline is understanding the rhythms of life, which I think is rather beautiful and poetic. If you go to understanding the rhythms of life and you're thinking about jazz and drumming, you might be a bit disappointed. But they do all sorts of really interesting research about body clocks and circadian rhythms. And circadian rhythms are how organisms track the passage of time and then adapt their biology accordingly. So this is why we have our digestive enzymes being released at a certain time of day, why our blood pressure varies at certain times, our lung capacities, etc. And we know this is really important in all of the cells of our body, that we have a body clock in to make sure those cells are working at their peak when they should be. And we know it's important because if the body clocks aren't working properly, this can lead to systemic disease like obesity, diabetes, cancer, inflammation, etc. So we have groups in our faculty that are looking, at the genetics of body clocks, how they're passed on, what they are, how they're switched on, how they become damaged, and how we can actually repair them so that people can understand good health. We also have people looking at trying to regenerate tissue, as I said before, like the salamander. You know, can we use cell therapy or gene therapy, tissue engineering to, you know, grow new hearts, grow new lungs. Transplants are okay as they go, but they're not perfect. If we could replace our own organs, that would be really, really exciting. So we have all these research groups there looking at that kind of information. In fact, if you think of an organ of the body or think of a disease, there will be somebody here in Manchester researching it. So whether it's the pancreas or the eyes or the lungs, we will be researching it here in Manchester. Now, some people are drawn to, you know, slightly different parts of biology. Our Centre for Historical Study of Science, Technology and Medicine. This integrates science with the medical humanities, historians, and science communication to try and understand the social context of biology. And by that I mean, where are we going with science? Where have we come from? Looking at how we did science in the past, and what we've thought as science in the past, how science is portrayed in the media, how science policy is made, ethics. You know, just because we can do things, should we? So that kind of societal level of looking at biology will appeal to some people. So you may want to do sort of less practical work after the first year and think about society and do units that are a bit more global. Of course, we always come back to disease, so whether it's inflammation, thinking about the brain. We have the UK Brain Bank network here in Manchester. That supplies human brain tissue for research locally here and nationally and internationally as well. And of course, inflammation, immunology, and the Lydia Becker Institute houses lots of different research groups, so they can, share their research, share what they're doing, so we can move forward in our understanding, whether it's bacterial, viral, parasitic disease, or fungal disease. You know, we often think of fungal diseases as being athlete's foot or something quite minor, but we know in hospital, especially if people are immunosuppressed, people can get systemic yeast and fungal infections. We have very crude drugs for fungal infections internally, and those drugs are becoming drug resistant. These organisms are becoming drug resistant. And it can be very nasty for people having serious surgery. So we have people looking at that kind of research as well. So loads of really current research. This is why biological sciences is such a great degree to go for, because it's always going to be current, it's always moving forward. And sometimes, as we see with HISTM, we need to look back as well and see why are we doing what we're doing. You know, so hopefully there's something here for everybody who may want to do our courses. So how are you going to do it at Manchester? So what's the application process? As I say, we have these 15 degree courses. Some of them are more popular than others in first year. Biomedical science is our biggest recruiter. We have about 180 to 200 students who want to do that. Whereas immunology, we may only have 5 or 10 students who do that. But then what we do is we have flexibility. So it means that we have this common first year, then we get everybody in at the end of first year or around about Easter time and say, are you on the right degree programme for you? You said you wanted to do genetics, looking forward to what's coming in second year. Are the units you want to do in the genetics programme, or are they more likely to be immunology or more likely to be pharmacology? So you may go from a very specific degree programme to something that sounds a bit more broad, or one that sounds a bit more broad and go to something specific. You get exactly the same flexibility with all of them, in the sense that you can move around and specialise. Some of the practicals are a little bit different depending on which one you go to, but they're giving you the same skills so that you can switch. And about 25%, so a quarter of the year group will change what degree programme they're in. And of course, the degree programmes then become more specialised in second year. You know, first year, you're going to be doing a biochemistry unit. You'll do some molecular biology. You'll do some microbiology. You'll be doing some cell biology. So you do all of the different bits, if you like. And then for some degree programmes, you can choose units outside of the School of Biological Sciences as well. Now, some of them, I say you can swap between the degree programmes. Sometimes it matters which ones you choose in first year. If you're interested in biochemistry or molecular biology, your optional units will be in chemistry. You know, we want you to do some hardcore chemistry units run by the chemistry school. They are options if you're doing the other degree programs. So if you think you've got an inkling you might want to change to biochemistry because it's still there, you would take those as options in the first year, and then you can do that smooth transition. Now, we will give you a guidance, or your degree program directors will give you guidance in your first year if there are any units that you have to take in first year. Now, one way you may want to change your courses is to take a 4-year option rather than the 3-year. And we've got various different ways that you can do the 4-year degrees. The most popular one is with industrial or professional experience. So you can apply on UCAS for the 4-year degree straight away, or you can apply for the 3-year degree, and in your first year you can decide to switch on it in your second year. So you're not set on it either way. You have to get a certain mark in your first year and your second year. So you need to have a good academic level where you're passing all your units with at least a 2-1, so 60%, and you're not failing any units. And then in second year, if you're on the industrial placement year, our placement office will send you applications to apply for the placements. The companies come to us and say, we've got 6 places for placement students. They'll go out to everybody who's on the placement scheme. And if you fancy it and think, oh yeah, I'd like to do that, you apply for it. You may be interviewed, or you will be interviewed, and you may get it. Or you may look at it and think, I don't really fancy spending a year in Thailand. I don't want to go for that placement. And you wait for other ones to come through. So you're showing that you want to go on a placement year, but you won't necessarily go on one if none of the placements are to your liking. This year we've got 153 people, I think, on placement. They'll be coming back to finish their final year in 2023. And we're sending out about another 120 on placement who will go out. So it's usually between 100 and 150, 160 people go on that placement year. And the idea on the placement year, you'll be working in a company in biosciences, so you'll be doing research, and you'll be somewhere else. It could be in Manchester. You don't have to leave Manchester. It could be in the UK. I'll show you a map in a moment of where we've sent people. And then you come back and finish your final year. So then you get a BSc Honours in your degree title with industrial or professional experience. And employers like to see tailored experience. So if you want to do a PhD afterwards, it's a really good way to get that experience. And so, some of the placements pay really well. We send people to the Mayo Clinic in Florida, and they pay over $30,000 a year. So you get a salary whilst you're getting experience, whilst you're having a fun time in Florida. Other placements that are not paid. It may just be board and lodgings. So they vary a lot depending on what kind of placement they are. Now, another way of doing a 4-year degree is with a modern language. So Spanish, French, German, Italian, and something else. I can't remember what it is. Anyway, European languages. Or you can do it with Mandarin or Japanese. You will need to have an A level in the European language if you want to pursue the modern language option. If you want to do it with Mandarin or Japanese, we recognise not everybody's had the opportunity to do that A level, so we would request an A level in another language that you have been able to do, just to show you've got language capability. And then, so you do your first 2 years as normal. Again, you've still got to get over 60% to stay on the with language year. Your options in first and second year would then be in the modern language. So you'd be taking Spanish classes or Mandarin classes, and you have to pass those as well. And then we will guarantee you a placement then in a university or a workplace in the country that speaks that language. So you'll spend, a year, in Switzerland or something, being able to speak French with people there and doing some science as well. And then again, you'd come back and finish the 4th year with all the other students too. Now, because you've got options in the language school in first and second year that are only available to people on the with modern language degree, you can't change into the language degree after first year. So you've got to enter and stay on the with language degree from first year. And that's the same with the entrepreneurship degree as well, because your options there in first year would be in the business school. So you'd be doing entrepreneurship, enterprise, business skills, basically. And you have to do those in first and second year. So again, you can't switch on to the entrepreneurship degree after first year. And the placement you do is exactly the same as the industrial professional experience. So it could be in a biotech company, it could be in a research lab. We also have placements in science communication, science writing companies, in education, in schools. Because some people on the entrepreneurship degree want the science. They want a year of science before they're thinking about marketing. Some people want to have the marketing and business experience. So again, if the placements please you and you like them, you can apply for them. If you don't get a placement or you don't see any you like, you just then revert back to the 3-year degree. So I think my next slide here is, this is where we've sent people in the past. So loads of the placements are in Manchester or in the UK, lots of them in Europe. We always send somebody, say, to the Mayo Clinic. We send people to Nebraska, Thailand. Some of these Australian placements were actually self-arranged placements, because you can self-arrange a placement if you've got links and contacts. It would have to be run past our placement office, who would check it for health and safety reasons and to make sure you're not being exploited. But it's perfectly acceptable if you have contacts to go and work somewhere in that year. And then so the final way of doing a 4-year degree is doing the integrated masters. This is where you do the first 2 years the same as everybody else. The third year, you do the third year taught units, and then you do some research skills units as well. You make overtures to one of our investigators who are running the labs in Manchester. You write a proposal as to what kind of research you'd like to do with them. And then if it's accepted by the researchers, you spend a whole year, the 4th year, doing research in the labs in Manchester. And because we know there's a lot of science that takes place in that year, because you're not doing any taught courses in the last year, no Christmas exams, probably for the first time for a long time for many of you. We know you're doing a lot of science, so we know it's worth getting an MSci master's degree. And these are really good opportunities if you're thinking of going into doing a PhD, because you're spending a whole year in a research lab, and that may give you contacts then to carry on and do a PhD. So another way you may want to change your degree content is if you fancy doing a field course. So these are in place of taught units. This is where people will go out and about in places like, we send people to Scotland, we have some in Manchester, we have Mallorca, the Italian Alps, Costa Rica, South Africa, and we had one in Malaysia this year for the first time as well. So there is a cost option to doing a field course. You do have to pay some money. The ones in Manchester are free, but lots of them they are subsidised. So we make those costs, transparent at the beginning of the year, so you can see which ones you want to sign up for. Now these are compulsory to do a field trip if you're in zoology. You do one in year 1 and one in year 2, and they're optional if you're doing biology or life sciences, but they're not available for anybody else. So if you're doing biomedical sciences, you would not be able to go on one of these field trips. So that may make the difference as to why you go for biology as opposed to biomedical sciences. So then the procedures and the actual process, if you're applying for 2024 entry, the 16th of October is the earlier deadline, and that's for people who are applying to Oxbridge or dentistry, medicine or veterinary science. Most people will have a deadline of the 31st of January. Hashtag, I copied these off the UCAS website, but they may be subject to change, so don't sue me if they're different, okay? But they were right last time I looked. By the 31st of January, we'd have had probably over 6,000 applications. You're no more likely to get an offer if you apply early or as if you apply the 31st of January. So all are treated equally if you meet our criteria. We have a quick cursory look through the application to make sure you look like you've applied for the right degree as judged by your personal statement. We're not looking for anything in particular. You don't have to have any work experience. It's good for you if you have, whether it's getting money because you need the money, and, you know, you're working in Costa Coffee or you're working in a shop or something, or if it's science, you know, placement experience, that's great, but you don't have to have it. We're just looking to see, when you say you've applied for pharmacology, you've not written pharmacy in your personal statement. If your personal statement doesn't match up with your degree, then we will ask you to write another one that's not tailored to medicine or dentistry or whatever it is. So we'll do that outside of the UCAS system. So we'll get the official one you put in, but we'll look at it quickly and say, actually, can you write one for biochemistry, please? So that's what we look at. But what we're really interested in is your A-level grades. So these are currently what we're asking for. These will be firmed up in September when the cycle begins for 2024. But for this coming year's entrant level, it was 3 A's or 2 A's and a B if you're doing 2 sciences. And these are tailored, these are matched towards your predicted grades. If you predicted 3 A's, you're going to get an offer of 3 A's. If you're predicted 2 A's and a B, you will get an offer of 2 A's and a B. If you're only doing 1 science, then your offer is 3 A's, whatever your predictions are. If you're not doing enough sciences, then a foundation year offer may be given instead. So the details of the foundation year are on our website. Now, I'm saying A-levels, of course, the international baccalaureate equivalents are on our website, as are access to higher education diplomas as well. So if you're doing any other qualifications, the conversion will be on our website. Now, all offers are subject to our contextual offers as outlined on the website. Now, we're asking for 3 A's if you predicted 3 A's, because we want you to get your potential. We do know that some employers, after graduation, even though we've enriched you for the 3 or 4 years and you've got your first-class degree, some employers will look at what you got at A-level. So if your school or college think you're going to, you know, could get 3 A's, then we want you to keep on working for 3 A's and not to hold back on any of the revision that you do, just in case you don't quite get it right. And most years, you know, apart from the last couple of COVID years, if we've given a top offer of 3 A's and somebody's dropped down a grade or even dropped 2 grades, we've been able to find room for them. So we would take it. Of course, if we've given you our bottom offer and you drop a couple of grades, we're talking a foundation year offer on results day. We get the results on the Saturday or Sunday before the results come to you on the Thursday. So we have quite a few days to work out who's made their offer, they're in, who hasn't made their offer, but they've only dropped a grade and we've still got room. Of course, in COVID years, we didn't have any extra room for people who dropped grades. We're hoping this year for 2023 entry, it will go back to what it used to be like. So by the time you get here, it hopefully should all be sorted and settled. That's what we're hoping anyway. When you apply to us, and if we give you an offer, we will also invite you to an offer holders day, which will start from March onwards. So we'll invite you and a guest up to the university campus. We'll give you a more detailed talk about the courses. We'll give you a tour around so you can see in some of the lecture theatres and the labs. We'll come into our teaching labs and give you a little bit to do. But importantly, you'll have a good chance to talk to the ambassadors, the student ambassadors who are doing the degree courses at the moment. So you can ask loads of questions about the nuances between the degrees. Okay, yes, that's all I've got to say. So, yeah, once you've got your offer from us, you've got until May time, I think it's middle to the end of May, to decide who are you putting as your firm choice, who is you putting as your insurance choice. And usually we have about 1,200 people who put as first choice. And then on results day, that filters down to about 700 places we can offer on our first year. So just a comment about a typical week. If you're doing a STEM subject here in Manchester, we're expecting you to do around about 20 hours a week. It varies week by week of timetabled stuff, of which it's broken down into lectures, practicals and tutorials. So lecturers, as I say, lecture theatre is bigger than this one, 600 students in. By second year, they're a bit smaller because we've got more choice. And by final year, there might just be 30 of you on a unit. Lectures are all recorded, so you can listen to them afterwards, which is quite good for when you're revising. or sometimes they may be pre-recorded, so you've got something to listen to or look at in your own time, and then you come into the lecture theatre and have activities in the lecture theatre. Practicals, we build up the hours from first semester through to the end of second year. So you may start out just having a few hours in the lab in first semester, and some online activities to do, data handling, experimental design things. By the end of the second year, you'll be in 4 weeks solidly in the labs. And the idea is by the end of second year, if you're going on a placement, you have the skills, the laboratory skills, and you're used to using different bits of equipment, etc. So whatever lab you're going in, you have the skills necessary to do that research. You'll be put in a tutor group when you arrive with 9 other students, so around about 10 of you in a tutor group. So they'll all be in the same degree program that you're in. The tutor will be from an academic member of staff who's a specialist in that particular field as well. And in the tutorials, you're going to be looking at, reading research papers, writing essays, giving presentations, having debates. And it's all based in the degree program you're doing. So this is one reason why you might want to opt for the specialist degree title, because if you're interested in pharmacology, you're probably going to want to write essays in pharmacology, and you want to be, tutored through this with a pharmacologist. Whereas if you're in, say, a biology degree program, your tutor could be a plant scientist, a molecular biologist, a microbiologist, and they may want you to write essays in microbiology when you're thinking, actually, I just want to write about hearts. So that's why you may want to go for a more tailored degree title. In second year, you're then put in a different tutor group, again with more people in your degree program, and then in final year, the same kind of thing. So even if you're in a very big degree program, you'll get to know those 10 people in your tutor group pretty well, and then a chance to get to know another 10 in the second year as well. So it's around about 20 hours a week timetabled, and then 20 hours a week we'd expect you to put in on your own. So looking at original sources of information, not just relying on the lecture notes, because that's just one side of information. We want you to read the sources yourself, make notes from those, so that you have a very coherent set of information to revise from, to show that you've understood what that unit was all about. So last few slides now, I'm going to think about careers. So what do people do with a degree in biological sciences? And the answer is you can do anything with biological sciences. Here's a nice pie chart. We can't have a science talk without some kind of graphing. So here's a pie chart. This is where an average of where people have gone in the last few years. So you can see this one in purple here, 35%. So a third of the year have done their degree, their specialist degree in biochemistry or whatever it is, and then decided they want to do further study. So a master's degree or a PhD straight after graduation. And that's a lot of people who are keeping the science going, keeping the research going, because they want to be a research bioscientist. About 14% will go into labs like hospital labs or pharmaceutical companies. So they may be part of research, but they're not actually registered for a further degree. They're doing it straight from their BSc degree. I mean, they may well go on to do a master's later on, but they're going into working in a labs at their first port of call. So, around about half of the year group are carrying on with their science in some form or other and making, hopefully, their career in it. Some people have a slight change of tack and want to go into medicine. So this will mean after any of the degrees we do, whether it's biochemistry or pharmacology, they will then apply for a postgraduate medicine course, which is 4 years. Very competitive to get into, simply because not many places offer a 4-year medicine program. At the moment, Manchester doesn't offer 4-year postgraduate medicine. We are putting a course together, and I think that will be online not online. It will be available to apply for, I think, from 2025 onwards. So by the time you finish your degrees, then hopefully that postgraduate medicine course will be available. Some people do a 5-year medicine course after doing pharmacology with us. It's not the easiest route into medicine and certainly not the cheapest. So if that's a pathway you're thinking of, you do need to look at student loans and think, what could you actually get a student loan for here? Because it won't pay for all of the years. But some people do that, get sponsored to do medicine afterwards. Now that leaves a big chunk of people, this here in the darker blue here, a third of the year go into something non-bioscience related. So they've hopefully enjoyed the science whilst they've been here. They're glad that somebody else is finding a cure for cancer, but they've decided it's not going to be them. And they've gone to a graduate opportunity. So this is working for people, like fast-track civil service, management consultants, maybe working for AstraZeneca or these kind of science places, but they're not actually doing the science. Maybe they're working in high-level administration or in HR, working for the BBC. So they're taking into these graduate training programs the skills they need, like being able to read complex information, write reports, give presentations, with some numeracy skills as well. And then these corporations know that they can train these graduates up in the field that they then want to work in. So loads of different kinds of places that people end up in. And to help them on the way, we have the Careers Service here in Manchester. You can look at the website for careers.manchester.ac.uk. It's been voted the best UK university careers service for the last few years. Because we're a big university, we have a lot of resources for things like careers. We have a huge alumni, so our ex-graduates come back and run sessions on, hey, these are the jobs I'm doing now with my degree in pharmacology. The graduate recruiters come to us because they know that Manchester University students have been given a really good training in all sorts of things. And we know bioscientists are very popular as well, because you can write, you can use complex information, and you have numeracy skills. So these are all really good fodder for employers who want you. So that's something that you want to be looking at when you're applying to university. Apply to a city or a town where you think you can be happy living, and there's lots, there's enough going on that you want to do. A course that you're going to be really interested in, and here in Manchester, you know that afterwards, when you've got your degree, you will be really employable as well. If you're interested in being employed straight away, it may be that you want to do something else first before you get employment. The Careers Service will always be there for you when you do need it. So that's all I've got to say about the courses. The students who are in the Michael Smith building, I think they'll be finished by the time this talk is finished. So hopefully you've managed to get over and talk to them before. I'll be staying here so you can have a chat with me if any of you have any questions about your own application or anything that hasn't been made clear. But other than that, do look at our Bioscience course web pages, and hopefully the information you need will be there. So thank you very much.